I wanted to ask you about the value of cross-media, and we've talked about that before.
Sure.
You've commented a little bit, but I wanted to ask you about what you've been finding. You have this study called Blueprint that you've done some proprietary research. Tell us a little bit about what you've been finding out about cross-platform.
Well, Blueprint is all about the audience cross-platform. So not about the effectiveness piece, but on the audience side, just understanding from a strategic point of view, really, not meant to be a currency at all, but just to really understand cross-platform behavior. We've learned a lot so far. It's measuring 5 platforms: TV, PC, tablet, smartphone, and audio. And what we've seen so far is some of the things that we've already learned through doing cross-platform research have been holding true. Thank goodness. We don't want it to all be surprises. We found that, for example, your TV usage, when you combine that with other platform usage, your TV usage doesn't go down. It stays the same. So media use is incremental. It's not a zero-sum game. We've seen that the folks who use digital media use more media. They're kind of a heavier media consumer, if you will, especially with ESPN. We've also seen that digital is, yes, it's a frequency play, but it's also big in terms of reach. And I think that's a huge piece that the agency folks struggle with, which is, I've got my TV dollars. How much of that do I take away and put into digital? And how much will the benefit be? And where will it be? Will it be frequency or will it be reach? So for example, just from 1 month of data in February, we saw that digital provides a lift to the male audience in a week of 23%, that was surprising. That was actually even bigger than we thought it would be.
So when you say lift, brand lift, how do you define that? How do you communicate it? And how does that affect purchase?
That's on an audience basis.
Okay.
Yeah. And this is preliminary data. We started this project last fall in September, and it took a long time to get it built, to get everything in place. So we started collecting data in February, and that's all we've seen so far, is that 1 month. So I think there's going to be a lot more learning as we go on. We're unique in that we cover sports, and so our seasons are not the same as an entertainment, programmer. So things will change as we get into the football season. There'll probably be different dynamics than what we saw in February.
Tell us about how do brand metrics improve, and is there a sort of an effective mix for certain brands, the way that they plan to advertise with you guys? Tell us a little bit about what works, about the dynamics of brand effectiveness on ESPN.
Yeah. We're fortunate in that we've been able to do a number of cross-platform studies. They've all been across a specific season or event. So we studied advertisers during World Cup in 2010. We've studied a couple of football seasons, both NFL and college football advertisers, and we also looked at college basketball advertisers and studied across those seasons. And what we've seen overall is that the media mix makes a difference. So you have to be deliberate about what the communication is that you want to affect when you're going in to make the mix. We kind of have a blueprint for each of the, sorry to use that word again, but we kind of have a picture of each brand and how their mix went together and what were the different elements that were pushing different KPIs. So you could see, for example, for one brand, television was doing a great job with awareness and also word of mouth. For other brands, maybe it wasn't word of mouth, the TV did. So it's almost an individual fingerprint for every brand.
Now, there's a lot of talk about live television and the value of live and how advertisers play in that, how social plays around that, and of course you guys have one of the greatest live franchise broadcast operations in the world. So, and you've been at it for quite a long time. There's other live things that go on the award show and other things.
Sure.
But tell us a little bit about the dynamics of live around live sports and the opportunities for advertisers to participate in that, both advertising in a traditional way of inserting, but also perhaps being involved through social and other aspects of it. Maybe you can explain that a little bit.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, no sports fan wants to watch a game in the past. Once you know the outcome, it kind of takes away the drama. So you really do want to see a game in its live environment. So that's tremendous, and we do find that that's an important thing for advertisers. There's a lot of emotion, there's a lot of rub-off, there's a lot of halo effect of being in an exciting environment like that, very engaged audience, if you will. We've seen it too when you look at our digital platforms where we're able to offer games beyond the game that we might have just on ESPN or on E2 or on U. So if you can get to your game that wasn't carried on those, you get an even stronger connection with that audience. So there's a lot of great stuff when it comes to being live and being able to be in that environment.
So Barbara, you're the only real research executive from a media company that we have today, and I wanted to ask you, we're talking about the pain points that you're dealing with. You have this amazing brand of ESPN. Of course, all the media planners just flock and you have to keep them out the door.
Yeah,
but seriously,
what
are the demands and the pain points in terms of, explaining the value, the impact, the effectiveness, the brand lift? Right. Are you there 100%, 50%? Where are you in that continuum of being able to communicate what you think the true value is of your audience?
Wow, where are we? We might be at 50%, but I don't think we can tell because things are changing so fast. It's sort of, once you feel like you're catching up, it gets a little more complicated and gets ahead of us even further. So that's a tough one. But I do, what Todd was saying before about the questions have gotten harder. Even just 3.5 years ago, all we were trying to demonstrate was that media mix was a good thing. That's not good enough anymore, right? It has gotten much more granular. The questions are intense. It's, what's the difference between a mobile screen and a tablet? It's not just mobile anymore. So the questions are just getting very, very fine. And in order to get to those kinds of very fine questions, it's requiring a number of things. It's requiring more studies. It's requiring creative approaches that might go beyond traditional research methods that we're used to. And it takes a little bit of money too.
Yeah, let's talk about the creative process. I know that's something we wanted to talk about today. So where does that stand in terms of the opportunity and the imperative for creative to be part of a successful mix? I mean, which is like a big question, but I know you think about this stuff.
Yeah, it's huge. We've done a lot of work on creative, looking at contextual creative, right? Does someone have to have a football commercial to be in a football environment? We've looked at that. It turns out you really don't have to. Good creative comes down to good creative a lot of times. But you do have to understand what emotions you're bringing out in a fan and then what that will be the takeaway. So for example, very entertaining commercials, yeah, you're going to increase your brand likability if you have an entertaining commercial. But we found that very annoying commercials get remembered. So, it's maybe not so bad to annoy people once in a while. Some of the other interesting things, if you look at wanting to say my brand is innovative, my brand is wholesome, a little more softer measures like that, those don't tend to be pushing KPIs as strong. And we kind of look at that and say, well, then maybe it's not TV, that they should be using different platforms to get across those kinds of elements.